right, and we're live. We've been chatting.
Woohoo!
And I cut it off, but welcome. Guys, we have like a natural little like 14 base show here. So
I mean, we do, don't we?
How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good. I am coming off of having finished Dawntrail a couple days ago, and quite enjoying it. A lot of positive things to say.
Okay.
Hi,
Chili, how you doing?
Sorry. I am fine. I really enjoyed Dawntrail as well, to be honest. It's probably one of my favorite expansions. I'm
Definitely
still
top
thinking
3 for me.
Yeah.
Top 3.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys, without getting into spoiler content, I think we probably have like about a week before the internet starts to say spoilers or you waited too long, it's your fault. But without getting into kind of specifics, do you guys feel that this has set itself up for something on the scale of the Hydaelyn Zodiark saga, or do you think that it'll take more time to find its footing?
I feel personally that it has absolutely put its foot forward. It has put a foot forward very clearly towards finding that feeling. Like, I don't think it's floundering or uncertain of what way that will go. I think there's some ambiguity about what the ultimate antagonist or conflict may be that isn't totally coalesced in clear ways yet. But I don't think that's because they don't have an answer to it. It feels like they very much have an answer to it, but that there's maybe all the threads won't be as fully clear until maybe an expansion or two from now.
And Shadowbringers and Endwalker really kind of shaped a lot of that up for the previous one. We couldn't have really known in Heavensward and Stormblood where we were headed.
Other than Zodiark, right? Like, that was the overarching clear.
Yeah.
But even
then, we didn't really know that until Heavensward, Stormblood. I don't think we really learned that much about the Zodiark in A Realm Reborn.
Well, to be fair, in the 2.0 finale cutscene, right, you get the vision of the Dark Crystal, right? So they do establish it, but yeah, it becomes a more and more looming and present threat as
it was a thing that existed, but we really didn't know what it was at all. Like,
just Hydaelyn's opposite, really, whatever that meant at the time.
Yeah. There was a bad guy of some kind at some point somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the Ascians up until really what? I mean, I guess they got a little better as they went along, even into Heavensward, but up until basically until Emet-Selch shows up, the Ascians were evil, shadowy organization of evilness. Trademark.
They're basically Organization 13.
You said it, not me.
So outside of lore, how are you guys enjoying the game? Or, battle content holding up, class changes holding up?
I think all their class changes are very much they're boring, I think, probably to a lot of people, but like, because there's a refinement. No, I mean, like, it's just on, like, let's call it spade a spade. Look, I'm Mr. Optimist and Mr. Kindface, and I get why someone would feel they're boring, because they're basically just a refinement on what Endwalker did, like, and there's not a lot of change up.
Yeah. I was going to say class changes is probably the wrong term to use. It's more class upgrades than changes for most of the classes. Like, if you're going in there expecting something different, unless it's Black Mage, in which case you're angry in the corner. But like, anyway, carry on. Sorry.
No, you're good. But I think the thing is that if you're someone like me, honestly, that was been welcome, because I've been a kind of a fan of how they've been doing it. I think all the trials and all the battle content they showed have shown either at worst equilibrium or a progression, like a constant progression. And it feels like, and it's hard to always tell because people have lower stat equipment right now, so it's harder to be very sure. But it definitely feels more and more like they're treating it as an assumption of, hey, you've played 90 levels prior of content, so we can kind of assume a certain baseline of player skill level, and we don't have to worry about new players coming in. Not that someone might not story skip or what have you, but basically the assumption is like, hey, you're X level of competency, and it feels like that bar rises with each expansion. And I feel like the trials.
I'm kind of happy that the dungeon content because they would talk about making dungeon content harder. And my worry about that was the fact that I didn't want the dungeon content just to be bigger numbers. And I found that because bigger numbers is not harder, that's just more healing, more worried about if you die, it's over. Like that's for me, that's not fun. But the new dungeon content has definitely stepped up in difficulty. But it's more mechanical difficulty than it is bigger number difficulty, which I'm very happy about. Now, I'm not saying it's hard. Well, some of them you might die and wipe on your first try, but like I'm not going to say they're hard, but they are definitely more pay attention than previous dungeons.
They are definitely, more. Yeah, you're right. Harder might not always be the right word, but they are definitely more involved, I think, on average. And I've heard a lot of people welcome that. I've had multiple people in my community who have been like, yeah, healing's more fun. This is all more fun. And like, it's not that anything changed about their job as much as it's just changed about the underlying having to pay attention to more than one thing.
Do you think that gives them more replayability? I think the general trend is every expansion they say the dungeons are going to get harder or they're going to invest more in dungeons or whatever. Some phrase gets thrown out, and then every time it's basically clear at once for the story. And for a lot of people, they could be done. If they don't need tomes, they could be done.
I would say that they are all more replayable than some of the ones in the past. I think there's just always fundamentally, if dungeons are not something you enjoy doing roulette for, doing like I don't know that they've changed enough to be anything more than that. Like if you're not a dungeon fan, this probably won't change your mind. But if you are someone who even just likes doing a roulette now and then, I think they're constantly making them more fun, and they're making them more fun in a way where I can imagine. Even if, let's say, like sinking down to do them, I think would still be fun because the underlying mechanics for quite a few of them are fun in their own rights without needing to just worry about your job being interesting. And I think that's some of them as well.
And some of the later ones, I'm not going to say which ones exactly, but they do involve some thought. Like I have seen people die and wipe and not work out what the mechanic is during some of the end dungeons.
Yeah. The final dungeon has some trial level mechanics.
I'm so bummed when we get through content that is supposed to be mechanically challenging and no one dies. I can't help but smile. Like somebody just getting yeeted. For me, a perfect clear is that like 2 or 3 people went down and we still got the clear.
I think
I don't need it to be fast. I want a little bit of chaos. I can be the one that gets yeeted. That's fine.
Yeah. You don't do the mechanic, the game insta kills you.
Yeah, there's some both dungeon and trial mechanics that I think you're being quite a fan of. I won't say which ones.
Yeah, trust me.
But
you will
there's at least one trial where you will lose at minimum one player, if not more. I have watched.
I mean, the final trial was horrendous. The final trial was horrendous for me.
Yeah,
and that's not because of the fight itself. I just got really unlucky because we went in the first pull. The healer disconnected halfway through it, so we all wiped eventually because the other healer was new as well. So we did. They didn't know the mechanics, so fair enough. And then on the second pull, no, like 2 more pulls later, that the other healer came back, and then the other healer disconnected. So it was like I think we had like 10 minutes left on the trial before we were going to get kicked out. So yeah, because the tank rage quit, so then we had to find another tank when the healer got back after. The healer got back, and as the healer got back, the tank rage quit just beforehand. I'm like, no.
So outside of battle content, like, what are you guys looking forward to most? Either now or as we get into point 1 and we start to kind of round out.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm very holistic when it comes to 14, like from lore, story, combat, all that. But I will say Dawntrail has really, in some ways, reignited my passion for the game as a whole. Just to be frank, like it's really revitalized a lot of energy because, like, the lore is really interesting. I'm really interested to see where the story goes. Like the EXs are a lot of fun. It's going into like the Point X series is really interesting because I think the most out of left field things I'm interested in, I am definitely interested in like the Beast Tamer, Hildebrand, because I want to see Hildebrand on Zorgor the Boundless, which is that giant ass bridge. And I want to see battle on the biggest bridge as like a trial. It really sounds like a cop up. I'm like really excited for all of it, which is exciting that my passion's been reignited enough that I'm excited for all of it.
Good. I see people leveling. I see people, Izzy's got 8 to go. So I'm sure we're starting to see some Omni mounts out there. as people kind of get through all that. It'll be exciting to see kind of what happens after people's initial rush. I know at the beginning of an expansion, it's really easy for some people to put in pretty absurd hours at kind of an unsustainable pace. But then the rest of life can kick in, and you play other games or you do other things.
One interesting thing about that is this is the first game I've played kind of slow. Like usually I mainline the MSQ in like 3 days. This one I actually took like a solid week to like play at a like more gentle cadence, gentle. But Dawntrail is actually, I think, maybe one of the better expansions they've done in a long time to be able to play at a more chilled pace. Because it really does have 2 distinct arcs that are one cohesive story, but like I don't think it punishes you for taking your time the same way that like the pressure of something like Shadowbringers or Endwalker with like their like non-letting up, constantly propulsive story. Like don't get me wrong, Dawntrail is definitely propulsive, but it at least feels like it has points to like take a breathers as you go along.
Do you think that's something that's changed in the way we're consuming the game as a community, or do you think that's something intentional they did in the design?
That's a great question.
Because you're not the only person that I'm hearing doesn't feel that pressure.
I think part of it, I feel, is that old hands. I think we've gone through the rodeo enough that we know we know the ride. But I think for some of the newer people, I do think it is partly the structure, because, and I know there's been a lot of comparisons to Dawntrail to Stormblood, but what's interesting is that Stormblood and Dawntrail have really interesting comparisons for how they're structured, but they're not identical. Just an example, Dawntrail is basically 2 distinct arcs, the second of which is building off of the first, but the first is cohesive and complete in its own right. But they are like, there's a break point between those 2. Whereas like Stormblood is like Girabanya, Othard, Girabanya. And I think that distinct fact that it's broken in 2 and that the first arc is much more of like an adventure where you like each step kind of has a natural pause point really helps to like take it chill. And also you're kind of supposed to breathe and take into Raw, like is part of the story. It doesn't really get like a propulsive can't stop, oh god, this is like going until really the final 2 maps, which are deceptively probably like 40% of the story.
That's very different than how I would describe Endwalker. Like Endwalker was just this like you only stopped when you need like an emotional, like I need a cold shower and a glass of water, and then I have to come back and play more.
Yeah, with this, it's very like, I've got this far. I can stop here and take a break. Like, and I find the maps a lot more involved as well, which means I've enjoyed it going around them a lot more than I did previous maps, because there's like little towns here and there, like just little bits. But for me, by the way, what I'm looking forward to the most with Dawntrail, I think, is the Alliance raid, just because I played Final Fantasy 11 for so long that I'm excited to see, especially with how this story went.
Don't get me started. I don't get me started. There's so much lore stuff I'm talking about that I'm positively vibrating about. But one, we're no spoilers. No,
spoilers. I just want to see how. I really want to see how they're going to get Vanadiel involved. Because it says on the website that we go to Vanadiel.
But that doesn't mean we go to 11. That doesn't mean we go to 11. It means that we go to a place called Vanadiel.
We might go to Shard 11.
Yes. The reflections that still as of that we know continue to exist as of now are the 4th, the 8th, the 11th, and the 9th. And obviously the 1st and 13th are going on with their whole thing. Yeah. So worth noting. So
like I don't expect us to go, but even if we did go there, I expect it to be like a bubble of a location and not the whole area.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't think we're going to visit. They're not going to be like, okay, patch 6.1, we're adding Final Fantasy 11 into 14. Here you go, enjoy this entire universe. It would be one location that would be a bubble. But anyway, I'm looking for the Alliance raid.
Kind of like the Yorha stuff, like isn't it kind of like the Shadowbringers, where like in my head that's how it plays. Is that the people who have played 11 will get additional joy, but ideally it is done in a way that it is still consumable for those of us And
yes,
honestly, that felt like a billboard to sell that game. And that's kind of what I expect this to be. I expect this to be a 3-part series saying, if you like this, go play 11.
The thing is, though, it's not just the Alliance raid that is very 11. This entire expansion has a lot of 11. Like, the Mammal Jar, most of the named Mammal Jar in Dawntrail are from 11.
Yeah, the Tyrallian stuff in Doc Tyral is particularly more 11-y, although there's cool Final Fantasy X stuff. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but in the Yakta L Forest, that's basically Macalania. But like that, then it goes hardcore Final Fantasy IX. I will tell you what. I will say the what's interesting about the 11 stuff is we don't know how it's going to play out. What I suspect the difference is that if they do 11 how I think they might, it's that it's going to be a 14's interpretation of Vanadiel rather than just 11 in 14 for a bunch of complicated reasons. But the difference being that the Yorha stuff is so dissonant with 14 that even the Encyclopedia Eorzeas like literally burn out the section involving like everything to do with Nier. Like they have the dwarves, but then literally all the stuff with Nier is just like burned out of the page. Because I really do feel like we're gonna have an actual connection with the Vanadiel. I don't think it's just gonna be 14s. I do think we're gonna see something. I desperately
But that's just me.
Not.
We'll see.
I know I'm unpopular for thinking this, but I really hope not.
Because we already had one character jump between dimensions between the two games.
But events are never canon. They've never.
You say that until they are.
That's true. No, you're absolutely right there. They could absolutely go like, actually, yes, if you did the Yorha campaign, it is. But to be fair, there's no reason that event has to necessarily be canon. Like, has to be canon 11 as opposed to yes, it matches up, but you know. But maybe I'm.
So the event isn't canon until the creators decide it's then canon.
You're totally right.
Which they can always retcon. But we'll see. We'll see. It's all, but that's why I'm excited. Like, we have no idea. That's what makes me excited about it.
Yeah. I'm just so much more excited for 14 interpreting Vanadiel in, like, the same way, like, they interpreted Ivalice and stuff than I am them, like, trying to figure out the headache of how the frick they both exist. But also the interdimensional rift is supposed to be infinite continuum of possibilities. Therefore, they can do
You always have the world of Dynamis.
But Dynamis, I'm sorry. I'm so tired. Dynamis is not a hand wave can do whatever. There are limitations that are defined within the world of what it's capable of doing.
Yeah, there is, but yeah. And I'm talking about 11's Dynamis, not 14.
Oh, okay. See, my bad. I don't know 11's Dynamis. I know very little about.
Yeah, 11 Dynamis was a separate dimension created by, I think it was Diablos. It was a sleep dimension.
Okay.
Where instead of the beast tribe, they were called beast tribes in 11 still, so I'm still going to call that because that's what they were called. Mm-hmm. Where the beast tribes actually won the war and took over the main cities. So this was you going into this world where you were then trying to get back the cities from the tribes that had already taken over the city.
I did read about that. It's been so long. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So again, that was I think that was a sleep dimension by Diablos.
It'd be cool if they at least.
I don't remember all the lore, of course. It's been a decade. So
literally, they burn out the Nier stuff in the Encyclopedia Eorzea.
Yeah, no, I mean I meant the 11 Dynamis, but no, and the Shade Triangle.
Yeah,
whatever the Eureka stuff is going to be. That's what I'm excited for Dawntrail. Those are my main things, and of course Beastmaster. Or Beast Tamer, or whatever it's called, when that drops. That won't be until November next year.
7.3 is last we heard.
Viper and Pictomancer.
I think they're a lot of fun. I kind of understand all the criticisms that some people have with Viper's overt simplicity, but honestly, maybe it's because I'm a tank main. But the all flash, no substance of playing Viper has been a lot of fun.
Okay.
And I really like Pictomancer. Again, I'm not a DPS main, so I feel like I'm the worst person to say, but I've been enjoying them both quite a bit.
Viper for me is button heavy and is a bit messy. At least on controller, I don't think it's great. It's not the worst job in the world, but if you have a standard button layout that you have for most jobs, you can't do that with Viper. You got to completely change everything that you have for your layout, really. And for Pictomancer, I enjoy it. It's my new main for raiding. But my only issue, and I said this on multiple different podcasts, on multiple different streams, is I do wish that the hammer button was 2 buttons, preferably 1 button, but I would rather it be 2 buttons instead of the 3 buttons that it currently is. And there's a couple of other buttons that they could probably switch into other buttons as well. Like someone's mentioned on Twitter that you could probably make it so that Holy and Comet are the same button, because you use Comet when you use the subtractive palette. So you switch over anyway. So I'd rather those be 1 button anyway. And the same with the subtractive AoE combo and single target combo. You're not going to use the old buttons when you switched over to subtractive anyway. So they might as well just make it so the old combo switches over to the new combo. Just to get it is extra buttons just to have extra buttons. But those are less annoying for me than the hammer button, which you got to paint the hammer, then make the hammer stamp, and then you can actually use the hammer attack. And those are 3 different buttons. That's not just 1 button. That's the hammer paint, the hammer stamp, and the hammer attack is 3 different buttons. Nice. Why does this need to be 3 buttons when 2 of them do nothing?
Now you know the pain of Shadowbringer's Gunbreaker when we had continuation as 3 separate buttons. Hopefully they'll tweak that. Yeah. I will say as a tank player, this is the first expansion I've played in a while where you know what? Maybe I am ready for a new tank. Because it's not that the old current 4 are stale, but or definitely that like I think there could be some freshness in throwing something out like a rune fencer or what have you.
Do you think that's what comes next expansion? Is a tank and a DPS?
I mean, if you hold the thing out, it should be a tank and a ranged DPS. I mean, I fully suspect that that's a very safe bet to assume, but either A, they could go to 1 job, which I think is possible, or B, yeah, right. And then B, I could also imagine them saying, hey, no, we've got a really, really good idea for a healer that just makes sense, and breaking the pattern because they just would rather go with what they have an idea for than sticking adherently to that. But no, I wouldn't be surprised if we go to 1 job. I never know at this point. I could imagine them getting away with it, particularly if they said they were going to do something else, like in its place, in terms of like, okay, we get 1 job, but then we also add, I don't know. I mean, heck, Yoshi P joked about a new race, which I hope that was a joke, but that was not wise of him to say on stage.
I don't know that we get another race for the foreseeable future.
I
think they prepped us to not ever get one, and I think that buys them some time. And if they ever decide to do one, that's going to be, it would not shock me if we go at least 2 expansions without another race.
I'm pretty sure all the Viera and Hrothgar would prefer that they get their hats first.
I think that's part of the frustration is like, you haven't finished the last 2, so yeah. Like let's finish those up before we move on to other ones.
Link just mentioned Pelu Pelu as a new race. As a Lalafell, I'd accept that. And also remember, if you're a Lalafell, if you do visit the Pelu Pelu village, there are houses that only Lalafell can enter.
There is one problem with the Pelu Pelu, which is that historically that they're a variant of the Hurrian children models, and they've had a very strong stance against allowing children model to be used as any kind of playable model.
That's fair.
But hopefully I'm wrong about that. Yeah. Hopefully that wasn't.
By the way, it's cool that Lalafells get more housing items. Well, it's cool to me as a Lalafell. It's cool that we get more housing exclusive areas. But it still frustrates me that when I go into those areas, they've got Lalafell-sized housing items like chairs, tables, like cooking equipment. Like all of it's designed around Lalafell-sized. But then I can't buy any of it from my actual house that I own. So I have to have full-sized housing items that are massive compared to me. But then the models are in the game that I can go visit. I can just look at. I can't own any of them. They're just there.
I'm sure that's probably more to do with the technical limitation of the current housing system, because like as an object out in the map, you don't have to worry about like scaling issues because you can just basically preset it up.
Nobody's placing it. Nothing weird's happening. How do you guys feel about kind of the cosmetics? Does the graphics update do you notice it?
Oh boy, do I no! I am just every day I am playing, I am staring at a new vista and the lighting and fog, and I'm running all alliance raids. I just did Crystal Tower for the first time, and it is gorgeous. And like maybe it's just because I've stared at like every cutscene in the game for hours at a time from collecting.
Are you gonna go re-record those? Do side by sides?
Yeah, I've been having plans. Sadly, because I was sick for the past 4 months, I didn't gather as much before footage as I would like, but I'm definitely at the very least re-recording everything that I don't already have.
Wow. You guys keep a big library.
Yeah. My plan is at least to record Dawntrail right now because I don't want to record all the cutscenes in the game again until they touch up whatever they're going to touch up. And I'm guessing that they're going to go patch by patch. Like 7.1, we'll see Endwalker. 7.2, we'll see Shadowbringers. Or
you think it'll count backward?
I think that they will, only because it's less work. I could be wrong, and if they start with AR, that's a good idea, obviously, because that's
what they did with duty support, and that's what catches the free trial, right? That's what onboards people. Now, what's weird is then they get 30 hours in, they purchase the game, and then they just drop off a graphical cliff, and they're like, "Wait, what is this? What is this no man's land?"
The other thing that makes me think that they might start with Endwalker first is that like Endwalker is half done, and I don't just mean like because it was already of a certain level of quality. I mean, if you go look at the maps and all the gear in Endwalker, like a solid third of everything in Endwalker has already been touched up, and I think it's because they were using that for testing. Because you'll notice that like all the footage they showed when they were showing the graphic update examples are all in like old Charlian and all are. So that's my suspicion on like workload. However, I think it's just as reasonable to expect ARR because getting in the new trial people.
You think they'll finish it all in 2 years?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think the pipeline, the hard part's done. It's now just it's literally just a need to go step by step, get the people all going through the texture. I think Do you notice a lot? Like I haven't done any old content with it. What do you? It's huge.
Like in Crystal Tower, like
crazy.
Is it obvious in the spots where it's done versus the spots where it's not? Are there just spots that are just terrible?
No. So I actually
sorry. I was going to say I don't think the spots are terrible that I know of. But for me, the biggest notice is the lighting. The lighting is so much better now than it like. Yeah. I did one of the MSQ level 50 Praetorium. That was it. And I the scene where Gaius is talking and it zooms out with my character and the light is like I don't remember me looking this good during this cutscene. So yeah, the lighting. I think the lighting itself really, even if they haven't done the texture work for everything, I think the lighting system overall has just improved the feel and atmosphere of the game, even without the graphical updates.
And to like hit on that, the volumetric fog cannot be understated in its advantages and how much better it makes something seem. Like in Crystal Tower, for instance, the thing is that even without touching textures, so first off, textures have been touched in that even if they have not been up-res, the metals being more metallic just makes certain things better. Like metals are across the board enormously better. Crystal textures are enormously better.
Ground clutter should be increased, right?
Ground clutter is increased. Anytime, if you go into like the Crystal Tower is obviously a premier example, but anywhere that had like, if you go into the Ocular in the Crystarium, materials like that are just phenomenally better, even without a resolution bump. But the benefit of like volumetric fog and stuff is you'll be places like the Crystal Tower where you'll be in there and there'll be far off things that have natural, almost like depth of field going on by dint of just there being like a natural amount of volumetric fog, not like a haze that's blocking off a low resolution thing, but just like a natural, like there would be some amount of haze here, and it adds an inordinate amount. And the other thing about the lighting is it's not just that the lighting is so much better, it's that multiple things can cast lighting. So things are just inherently less flat, and there's more there are way more emitters. And so it is huge. And it is also huge that like just character skin actually starts to look like skin. It's
anywhere that you feel it's made something worse as it kind of transitions.
No, the worst I've seen is a side grade. There's a couple of glitches I've seen. So a big one is like Amarant in the Tempest. If you look, the volumetric fog or something is going on that's casting like lined shadows on the ground if you're high up above and look down. But like the worst I've seen is side grades.
Very cool. So you think this is just a wide improvement for new players coming in?
Complete win. Like just unambiguous, I would say.
And WoW over the years has done a number of these. They're not as announced as this, but like they have made a series of movements, and sometimes it is they made a big focus at one point when they were redoing all the kind of character models and the character creation and opening more options and stuff. But it's just steadily improved, and it doesn't become clear until you do something like you come back to the game now and you're like, I guess it looks better, and then you equip like your favorite cloak from the Burning Crusade. And you have the new, like you have shoulders from this expansion, and it just becomes very clear that like that cloak, while it might be the right color or the right design to go with your current gear, there's just a drastic resolution difference. Because they didn't go back and kind of redo all that stuff. It's just they've just left old gear.
I think what's really interesting is that where there's some texture difference where you can tell some AR, you can really tell like AR gear versus Dawntrail gear. I think the thing is that a lot of the stuff that they're doing is also kind of managing to hide the polygonal count. So there isn't as much of a like, I mean, it's still, obviously there still is a very big difference between a Realm Reborn and Dawntrail, but it's not like the difference between, you're like 10 polygons and I'm like 100,000 polygons, right?
So we're not going to get that yet. You don't think there's going to be any cutscenes where like some NPC, like it shows the profile of two faces.
I mean,
one looks pixelated compared to the other.
The faces I've watching through all the cutscenes, people's faces are completely fine. The only thing that is like, so if you go to like Stormblood, Hien's outfit looks better just by dint of the lighting and stuff, but the textures on it are still, you know, PS3 era resolution. But Stormblood hasn't been touched up, so that still has yet to be fixed. And they warned us about this, right? Like they specifically said
they apologized in advance. There will be, and they apologized for moments where you might have a cutscene where one person's gear has been addressed and another person's gear is not, which will make it even more stark.
Well, didn't they joke at one point that some of the NPCs might look better than some of the like main characters in the game because the NPCs in like towns were made by the character creator, and because they're buffing they're upgrading the character creator, which means those random NPCs, of course, by default, get the upgraded graphics because they just use the character creation tool. So it means some of the starting towns might look much better than some of the actual cutscenes.
Yeah, I do think that like in terms of forewarning, to be fair, I haven't watched a lot of ARR, so like I would assume that might be a place where it's most egregious. But it's really impressive what they've managed to accomplish. And it's really, and how much it's holistically, I feel like improved a lot. Like a good place, just go to Ilmeg. Like just go Ilmeg, especially if it's foggy in Ilmeg. It looks like a different game. It looks like the same game, but it looks like a new game, which is really impressive on the part that they nailed somehow managing like it's just the game you knew but better. And what's funny is I'm getting to the point now where I'm spending so much time playing that I'm getting really used to what it is now, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not that good. And then I go watch some old footage of mine. I'm like, oh, I look like Play-Doh.
Okay, good. Yeah. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. That's absolutely awesome. Well, so what are you guys working on right now? You've both cleared the MSQ. What is your task list? And when do you start playing other games again? Or if you're not already?
That's a great question. Chili, do you have an answer ready to go?
Well, currently I'm just working on leveling up all the jobs to 100 so that I can get the mount. I have Paladin, Viper, White Mage, Pictomancer for the actual DPS job. Well, you know, the disciple of DPS. And then for crafting, I've got most of the crafters to 100 now. I think I'm missing like 4. I got all the disciples of land up to 100. That, by the way, tip: if you want insanely fast XP, it says basically it's supposed to only work until level 80, but they still work above it. Is the I'm talking about, this is for land and crafters mainly. Well, this is for land and crafters really. You can buy those for scripts. You can buy these. You can get up to 2 million XP additional, but it's supposed to goes on only up to 80, and then after 80 it lowers how much XP you get. Blah blah blah. Yeah, it's it. But I used. If you buy a few, buy quite a lot. Like if you do ocean fishing, it would take. I think one lasted pretty much every section. You get 3 sections of ocean fishing during your trip, and one of those scripts would last you each one of those. and I would get nearly 2 levels per ocean fishing trip with that.
Wow.
So, and that was from 90 to 92. Like I would get like two-ish to 3-ish levels, depending on your RNG, of course. I'm not going to say you're going to guarantee that some RNG meant that some of the XP was worse. But if you get good RNG, I would say you could get 2 to 3 levels per ocean fishing trip.
But it's
so fishing is fast as hell.
I finished my hand and land Omni 100 before I finished the story. So like there are a lot of avenues to be able to level up real fast. Well, look, I wanted to make some gil, okay? Like
Sure.
No, on my hand, I really want to get back to making videos for 14. I've had to take some time off just for my own health, but like honestly, I don't know if I'm going to be playing much else for the next bit because I've got so much I want to accomplish in 14. And kind of like I said, Dawntrail really reignited not my like, oh, new shiny energy. It's not that. It's just like I'm just like excited for the game as a whole. And so I think I don't know when also Shadow of the Erdtree already came out and I played that, so I'm good for the next like 6 months. You know, I've hit my other game than 14 quota by playing a FromSoft game.
Yeah, I think the only game I'm excited for is in October, so I've got till then.
That's plenty of time. I have a buddy going through he's got a rough patch in life, and the game that we've always shared is Minecraft, and I haven't played Minecraft in like 3 years, and reinstalled that. So like, you never know when another game will strike you.
You never know.
He was just like, will you play this with me? Absolutely. I'm there.
Are you doing creative mode or are you doing survival? How
it's a modded pack. They threw up a server.
Okay.
So there's a little group of us that have played together. Our last server together was 2022, and then we played one in like late 2020. So every couple of years, one of us, something happens in our life, and we just kind of group up in block form.
That's cute.
Yeah, it's nice that games can be that. You know, MMOs can be that for a lot of people. Survival games, anything kind of that just allows that casual collaborativeness.
Yeah. And for all the bemoaning of like some of the death of couch co-op, the benefit of the online sphere is that if you've got friends afar, you've got those methods to keep up and keep in touch.
I've got to say that's one I miss couch co-op in a way, but I didn't really use it that much. But I that's one of the benefits of both. I think the Steam. I don't know if Xbox does this as well, but I know Steam and PlayStation do this, where if a game supports couch co-op but not online co-op, if you're on a party chat, you can actually share your second controller in the party chat, even if the game doesn't support online. You can then play technically online couch co-op with other people. And again, I think Steam has that feature as well, and that's one of the features I like. That if the game, I used to do that occasionally because my mate used to platinum everything, so I used to buy the Lego games. So he used to like the Lego games didn't have actual online co-op, so I would then join him via the PlayStation Share Play system.
They're delightful little games.
Yeah.
The Lego games.
Yeah, they really are.
They're really well done. A couple of them just can be. I think we bought all of them at some point or another.
When I used to work at GameStop, I like whenever like a dad or someone would come in and ask about a game for a kid, I'm like, "Have you played any of the Lego games?" And I was just like, it's just like without fail was always a good game to get to someone if they wanted to play with their
and
kid.
there's a ton of replayability. You can go back and grind up all this stuff. So, but if a kid just wants to kind of fumble their way through it, like it allows, I don't know. It's like a children's movie, right? Where there's adult humor happening in the subtext while the kids are having a blast. So, very, very cool. Well, good. Well, that's everything that we can talk about 14 wise without starting to get into spoilers that I can think of. Can you guys think of anything else?
Every place, everywhere I go starts going into spoiler territory. Yep. So pretty much.
Yeah, there's too many.
One more week.
Yeah, there's too many things to get too close to spoilers. Like you can discuss stuff, but you'll get really on the edge, and some people may consider them spoiler. So, yeah. I agree.
Actually, I have one question for you, both of you guys, because most of the people in my sphere and community are pretty positive on Dawntrail. I don't tend to check in with the Reddits and stuff because those tend to be a ill representative group. But what have you guys been hearing in your closer circles for people when it comes to Dawntrail? Has it been pretty positive, or has it been neutral? Where's it been at?
I think everybody's having fun. I don't think anybody's having their lives changed, but
yeah,
it's kind of nice to not have your life change. Like, it's kind of nice to just enjoy something. So I would say, like, it's very comparable to like a good burger. Like, it's not the same as like a big like graduation or anniversary or like holiday night out where it's this big extravagant standing rib roast or something that's just really rich and has complexity and you got to dress up to go enjoy. It's been something much more. Generally, what I'm hearing from people is it's just a burger, and like sometimes that's all you want.
Sometimes all you need.
I just want to relax. So like that's been. I think if I had to try to summarize kind of the tone of what people have been saying, and I think compared to previous ones, I'm hearing less people holding themselves up to like this shared scoreboard. It's like, well, here's kind of my goals and here's the pace I'm working through them. And there doesn't seem to be this like, and I know I'm doing it wrong. Like, no, like it's fine.
You do it how you do it. Yeah.
You do it how you do it. And there are absolutely people going hard. But there is also not that same pressure, which I think is really nice. It doesn't seem to feel as like rival based.
Yeah.
And I don't see any drama. Like when I'm consuming videos and stuff, like any of the drama I see is like, what
I've seen some drama. I've
seen
some drama,
but Xeno or whatever is going on, and like there's like Xeno's had some crazy drama videos lately. So if you want to consume drama,
there's always
absolute shenanigans over there. But
did you see his video recently where he made a complaint about the fact that he kept dying in a dungeon because the healer was watching the cutscene, and then he made a tweet saying the fact that if he wants to watch the cutscenes, they should be doing it with the trusts.
I did not.
No, that's. I'm sorry. That is neither. Okay, this is my personal value judgment, but like that's not the community that this community has tended to prioritize or value, and it's not the one that I think it should. And so I think he's just wrong. If you want to not deal with people watching the cutscenes, go worth a pre-made. That's my counterpoint.
And people said that if you don't care about that, then also you can also go do the trusts.
Yeah, or he can use the trust. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But no, I saw some drama over the voice acting and stuff, but I personally didn't have much issue with the voice acting in the game. There is a certain area in the game where it's very questionable.
But
it's not bad.
It's map 4, isn't it?
That's not the reason they added trusts, by the way.
Yes.
Like Yoshi-P has been incredibly clear on why trusts were added. The goal is to catch the single player people that are Final Fantasy fans from all of the other Final Fantasies, all but one, and invite them in without the pressure of having to perform for other people. It had nothing to do with enjoying or not enjoying the lore.
To which it has been wildly successful. I would point out. Like,
and I'd argue that if you want to do it for lore, you're then gonna go with not. I can't remember the actual official term for it. The exploration dungeon version, where you can go in and just wander around the dungeon without anything being there, so you can really enjoy the dungeon.
God, I love that explore system. It's so handy to have.
I've read a couple things on the forums and stuff.
But
nobody who's enjoying the game is gonna log out and go hop on the forums and say, great job. So
they did that for Endwalker. I remember they did it for Shadowbringers.
It's like when we've had past expansions where you can't log in. The forums is where all the people who aren't logged in are currently at. So you would think based on the forums that nobody got in, but that's because once somebody gets in, they stop posting on the forums. They don't go, hey guys, an update. I'm in and playing right now. No, they just close their browser and they play the game. And so like I think we get a lot of silence from the people who are just quietly enjoying it their own way.
Yeah.
And they're speaking to their friend group and stuff, but I don't know that I would go post on an official forum for a game that I played it the way I want at the pace I want and I've had a nice time. Like I just like I wouldn't say I went to a restaurant and had reasonable service and had a hamburger and it was fine. Like I just wouldn't say anything.
Yeah, it's a self-selecting group. I mean, like, I don't mean to dismiss that people aren't not only allowed to, but may have valid criticisms. But it's like the amount of times I see on the Reddit forums or other places, the reasons I've kind of stopped engaging with those places is because it's a self-selecting group of the people who feel very strongly and typically it's feel very strongly in a negative format, because even those who are feeling very strongly positively are usually just still engaging in the game and sharing it in game.
But generally I'm just seeing people just having a good time, which, because it's not those extreme reactions, it does make this expansion feel less popular, I guess, for lack of a better word. But like that, you know, like the concurrent numbers have been everything we've heard makes it sound great, but like it doesn't feel like Shadowbringers or Endwalker when there was just so much press around the game. And such a visceral reaction, and everybody was like, you have to stream you playing because I want to watch you cry. Like it, like because that's not happening to like just this fever level.
I firmly think that's what we need. It
seems quieter.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, honestly, I think that was calculated, and I think that's intentional. And I think, like, if you think about the frame of reference of like not only starting a new adventure, but not being the world's ending, oh my God. Like, I mean, to be fair, there's still existential threats and what have you and thematic stuff going on in Dawntrail. But like, it is, I keep describing it to people who I talk to where like Dawntrail breathes. Like, as an expansion, it actually like breathes. It's not holding its breath at every angle like Shadowbringers and Endwalker were in particular. So like, I totally agree with you. And honestly, I think that's only been a good thing in my opinion. That like it's been the kind of reset, the breathe, the going, bringing it back down a little bit, you know.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a good note to end it on, and that's kind of our cap on spoiler-free reviews. And then after this, we'll kind of come back and start talking spoilers soon. You guys ready for 20 questions?
Let's do it.
Let me get the wiki up.
You gonna lead us to victory again, Chili?
Well, we'll see.
All right. I have the Wikipedia up so that we can see definitions of things like genre. All right. Ready when you guys are.
What was the question that we figured out the last time that was really good for... okay, do we want to start with like developers?
I would say start with decade.
Start with decade. Okay. Is it from the 19? Oh, no.
Is it from that?
Yeah, go. You go.
Is it before the 2000s?
Yes.
Okay, so it's probably the 90s, knowing based on because Chris said he owned it. So, okay. Okay, who's big in the 90s? We're looking at Sony, likely Sony, Sega, or Nintendo are probably our best bets.
Or PC. It could also be PC.
Or PC. Yeah, that's true.
Because remember, PC did still have physical presence back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Remember those old cheap discs that you would find with like, this is Sonic Racing, only £5, and it was a brand that you never heard of before, really. Like, it just like, I've never heard of this brand before.
Can you imagine an Emmett Selk cutscene and then it pauses and says, please insert disc 7?
I'm just imagining Final Fantasy 14, but it's full motion video. Like they've got like people dressed up in like costume and everything. Like
I had a game growing up that had like 7 discs, and disc 5 got damaged, and we would try to avoid the levels that we knew were going to take us to disc 5. It was like,
funny.
Yeah, I had to return a copy of Final Fantasy VII because the disc got corrupted at like the golden saucer, so we couldn't get to the golden saucer. Because anytime you got on the thing, it just crashed.
Right. Oh God. That's okay. Oh, sorry. Are we feeling Sony, Sega, or Nintendo for trying to narrow down publisher?
I mean,
or at least console, right?
Wait, I know. Yeah. Okay, this will like need really tight. Okay. Is it a... Sorry, it's your question. Do you want to go?
No. Go for it. Go, please.
Is it a CD-based system?
Yep, that's exactly where I was going.
No.
Okay. Not. So that takes out PC, unless he's fucking with us and it's a floppy disk.
Yeah.
So that leaves us with what? Like the Genesis, the NES, the Super NES?
Well, the NES was 80s, right? More than 90s, but I guess there was some 90s stuff.
Well, but the question was only before 2000s, so there's no reason to, omit anything from the 80s. And I knew plenty of 90s kids who had like a NES in their household, who's like from like an older brother or a parent or something.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't
guess
discount.
NES was.
Yeah, it's like
I guess it was more of an American thing anyway than NES, because at least in the UK, it was the Master System was more of a thing than the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Okay.
Sega was a bigger focus here with the Sega Mega Drive, which you call the Genesis.
Honestly, Mega Drive's a great name. Look, I like the Genesis, but Mega Drive's also a great name. Was the game on a Nintendo console?
Yes. The game was released on a Nintendo console.
Okay.
3.
Okay, so that leaves NES, SNES, or N64.
It also includes Game Boy, though. So, like, we could ask, is it a handheld
Game Boy.
or not?
Yeah.
Do we want to do that?
Was it after 1995?
Yes, it was after 1995.
Okay,
so that pretty much rounds it down to what, the Game Boy Advance?
Game Boy Advance is like 2001, I think. We can check that. Game Boy.
Oh yeah, it was the Game Boy Color that was the late 90s, right?
Yeah. Game Boy Advance was 2001. So
okay, so that leaves Game Boy Color, because technically Game Boy Color, and N64.
It also leaves Super Nintendo and NES.
After 1995, though?
Well, the game came out after 1995, so that takes out NES, but that doesn't take out SNES, because SNES games were coming out into 96.
Okay.
Because, like, I think Final Fantasy, like, 5 or, like, 4 is, like, 94. Like, they're, like, or, like, yeah, it, like, the last...
We didn't get those till 2000, so...
Oh, God, the PAL region. My deepest condolences.
My Final Fantasy 6 came with a Final Fantasy 10 demo.
That's actually really bad.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
That's genuinely amazing.
That's so awesome.
Oh god! Do you have it? You gotta send me a picture or something of like the combo pack for that. That's that. Oh man!
Yeah, I'll have to find it somewhere. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
okay.
So funny.
Oh,
it's like Jurassic Park came out and they shipped it with Jurassic World. It's like, what are you talking about?
It was really confusing for young me. Where Final Fantasy 7 came out, I'm like, where is 1 to 6? I'm like, oh, it's a Japanese company. Maybe they just jumped to 7 and there was no 1 to 6.
They count forward.
Maybe they just like the names. Maybe there was like 7 characters, so they're like, we're calling it 7 because there's 7 characters or something like that. And then a year later, Final Fantasy 8 comes out. I'm like, wait, what? So they go up in numbers, and then 9. So wait, where was 1 to 6?
Chronologically confused. Was it a handheld? Was it on a handheld?
No, it was not a handheld.
Okay, so that leaves us with N64's
SNES. 5, right?
Yeah. So then, okay, so we got N64 and SNES. How do we want to break it down from there? Do we want to try to eliminate? We want to waste a question eliminating those. So we just get the console. Should we just like ask if it was the N64?
If you want to.
Okay, I'm gonna go for it. Was it on the N64?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
6.
So we've got console between 95 to 2000, N64 games split by year. Okay, let's use that. If you have a question, also feel free to go ahead.
Was it a first-party title?
Ooh, good one.
So it means it was made or published by Nintendo.
Yes, it was published by Nintendo.
It was published by Nintendo. Okay, interesting.
7. I had to look because 1990 me didn't care who published what. I was renting games at Blockbuster.
Oh god, I remember those days.
With allowance.
Yeah.
You know, for all we bemoan like subscriptions and stuff, I don't think
pick up pizza next door at Domino's.
You're feeling me
to avoid the delivery fee, and then go rent a VHS for my parents to watch while we rented games.
Back in my day,
N64 games were so expensive though. Like I was looking online, Like they were like 80 to 90 in my in here, which would be about £140 nowadays.
Is the main character of the game in Super Smash Brothers?
No.
That's
interesting.
8.
Oh.
The year for Christmas that me and my brothers got an N64. It was a combined gift to all of us, and then we each got a game given, which in hindsight was my parents spending a ton of money because games were like $60. You're allowed to, like, my brother's birthdays are right before Christmas. My birthday is in the second half of the year, and so they just kind of buy all your gifts at once.
Mm-hmm.
We get to open up birthday presents. We got to pick something from under the tree, and we picked a game, and we didn't have the console yet because it was still under the tree.
That's what happened to me with my
PS2. Go to
PS2.
Blockbuster and rent an N64 so that we could play with our birthday present.
Oh, that's cruel. They didn't even let. Oh,
Didn't just let us
wow.
open it. Rules are rules.
That's wow.
I will tell you, because of that, in future years, sequential presents were numbered on the outside of the wrapping.
Lessons
say,
learned.
Like it would say C for Chris 1. You'd be like, oh, okay.
Okay. N64 had a lot of like third-party IP games that were published by Nintendo. So here's what I'm thinking: is the IP of the game owned by Nintendo?
Like, you're asking, is it currently owned by Nintendo?
Well, I guess, has it ever been owned by Nintendo?
Oh my god, it's gonna be...
How do I find out who owns something? I mean, it was published by them, so I assumed they owned it, but IP was weird in the 90s.
It was.
Anybody could own anything.
It's true. Exchange of hands based on someone trading a sub sandwich in the back alley. Honestly, okay, so that the fact that this is hard is making me,
because like if it was article that said it was backed, it was Nintendo's money.
Okay,
so it was backed by Nintendo. The development of this game was backed by Nintendo.
The development was backed, okay, but the owning of the IP is at best ambiguous. Okay.
I would say that was probably no then.
Yeah. So that
was it a first person? Was it a first party title? No, first person shooter game is what I mean. Sorry. Was it a first person
shooter?
It was not. Okay.
It was not.
Okay, so that rules out Perfect Dark, which I was going to laugh if we got that again.
Yeah, or like GoldenEye or any of that.
Yeah.
Is it a collectathon?
Is it a
collectathon?
I was wrong. This was in one of the Smash Brothers.
Oh, okay. But so is it a collectathon?
Obviously not as something I played. Was it what?
A collectathon game?
I don't even know what that means.
Like Banjo-Kazooie, Mario 64, like games where you're like going around collecting, 100 DK64, like where you're collecting a bunch of bananas or collecting a bunch, like the primary like thing that gets you.
Well, that's more of a platform game than.
Well, it's the platformer is if you're doing jumping and navigating, but like Spyro is also considered a collectathon.
Yes, there is a collection aspect within the game.
Okay, there's a collecting aspect. Okay.
Yeah, but that could also still be a sports game because there's car games where you can collect cars and stuff like that.
Yeah, but Nintendo, I mean, you're not wrong, but like,
I'm looking at a list of published supposed Nintendo games, and there's quite a few racing games and sports games.
Right, but that's why I asked about IPs, because I think it's emphatic that like none of the Major League or any of the things that they published, and Nintendo doesn't own the rights to them, because the other people went on to make them.
You know what? Was it a racing game?
No.
Okay, so it's
11.
not Diddy Kong.
It's not F-Zero. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking. Because I know that F-Zero had a Smash Bros. Thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have like Captain Falcon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it made by Rareware?
It was made by Rare Limited.
It was made by Rare Limited? Okay. Okay, well, that
12.
really... Okay, that really...
I try to keep it yes or no, but like... Is that the same?
Yes. Yeah, Rareware is just one of the names that they've...
Rareware is more of the later names. Rare Limited was the original name.
Yeah.
Okay,
so that leaves us with like Banjo. That leaves us with DK64. That leaves us with Banjo Tooie. Oh, well, I guess we could just ask if it's a Banjo Kazooie game. Is it a Banjo and Kazooie game?
Yes.
Okay, so now the question is
13.
Banjo...
I think you're going to get this one.
What makes you say
no, we're on 15.
Oh, 15.
Is it... Well, okay, so 95. I'm going to assume that they wouldn't have bought the sequel not knowing. So I'm going to say, is it Banjo and Kazooie?
Yep.
Yay!
Yay!
Well,
strategies. We did it, Chili.
You did it.
We did it.
You did it.
We did it. Yeah.
Right at an hour, too. It's like we planned this.
Like
we planned it.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Elio, now that you're feeling better, like, where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me over on the Origin Archives on our YouTube, and you'll also find me a little bit more often over on our Discord. I will be producing videos. They should be coming out. I would say don't expect anything for maybe a month. I'm going to try to build up an actual battle chest that I can have. But also, I will be streaming an MSQ replay sometime in about a month after I move. Which I'm... What?
Moving again?
Yes. Yeah. It's been a year. But no, but this was always a transitional... I've moved like every year for the past like 7 years.
Everybody in the chat, just raise your hands if you move once a year. Obviously,
I've lived in the same place. I've lived in the same place for 11 years.
Okay, at least to my credit, this place I'm moving into is a house that has been built that it is like we are like it's permanent fixture. But you'll also probably catch me doing some lore studying stream and the likes over on our T Live channel. If you want to catch us there, those will be intermittent, but I definitely have. There is so much lore in Dawntrail. Holy crap! Oh my god! Oh, okay, yeah. So that's where you can find me.
all right, Chili, what are you up to?
Well, I'll be continuing leveling jobs on 14. Tonight we'll be going through Monk, as we're going through Monk tonight. Just as I said, although I won't really be spoiling story. There will be a huge chance that some dungeons and locations will be spoilers because, of course, I'm leveling past 90. And if I'm doing the roulette, I can't be like, oh, I'm not going to be like that one tank I had recently where I got into the roulette. And then as I got into the roulette, the tank was like, I don't like this dungeon, and then just left. I'm not going to do that. Just for the stream. I'm like, oh,
well, not that. Okay.
So,
for roulette doesn't like answer.
Warning for spoilers, but of course we're gonna have drops enabled so you can still get the mount. So apart from that, you can view my playthrough, which will be starting through next week, where me and Paul from Moogle Go Around play through the MSQ. The first episode will go live on Monday. We've got some really cool thumbnails for those. There'll be no spoilers. All the videos are going to be labeled the level and the part. That's all. There's no I'm hoping to have no spoilers in the thumbnails, no spoilers in the descriptions. So of course the video itself will have spoilers. If you click on the video after all that and you're not there, it's going to be spoilers because you clicked on the video. Your fault. But no, I'm hoping to have the MSQ playthrough start going up live from next week. And that's going to take a few months because we'll cut it up into like sections. Nice. But yeah, and you can find me on twitch.tv, this is Moogle Ground Radio, and you can find me on Moogle Ground on YouTube. Our next podcast should be on the 22nd, hopefully, where we're going to be back on episode, I think 198 of the podcast. So sweet. Yeah, we took a break because of Dawntrail. Anyway, and you, gaming kinda.
I don't have a firm plan this week. Everything's just kind of just making do with what I got. But Brian lost another 5 pounds, so he's getting ever closer. to starting his MSQ journey. He's tied that to a weight loss goal. It's kind of a big reward at the end of the journey there. And I think that's about it. We'll be back next Friday. We're trying to do every Friday this year minus the Dawntrail release. We skipped that one. We told ourselves 50, so that kind of burned one. I don't know that we're really worried about it, but that was the target. So thanks, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. Cheers.